Welcome to Broadway Bound's production of Fractured Fairy Tale Cinderella. Now, why is this a fractured fairy tale? Well, because they just got their parts today, and they don't know their lines. So they're just gonna say whatever they wanna say. So things might get a little weird, and that's okay, we're gonna keep going. My actors, be ready to listen, be ready to talk really, really loud. Talk as loud as you can, yeah? Okay. Here we go. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind, beautiful young girl named Cinderella. Cinderella lived with her cruel stepmother and two beautiful yet mean-spirited stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella. They all treated her very badly and made her do the chores. Stepmother would say,
"Why don't you just go back to the streets where you came from?"
Anastasia would say,
"You missed a spot."
and Drizella would say,
"My shoe was dirty. Clean."
and they would leave her to clean while they had fun. Even though her life's conditions are deplorable, she still tries to keep herself going by dreaming of a better life. She says to herself,
You really don't mean it, right?
she befriends a number of birds and mice. Her best mice friends are Jacques and Gus. Jacques says,
It's okay, Cinderella.
and Gus says,
Don't worry. They might just be mistreating you the whole time, but they just might be acting.
one day, the king of the kingdom announced he was throwing a grand ball. He says,
I am throwing a grand ball. Everybody in the country welcome.
he and the Grand Duke go door to door, inviting all the eligible young ladies to attend. The Grand Duke arrives at Cinderella's household and announces,
The king is holding the ball, and all the people in your house can come to
and then they go on to more houses.
Cinderella! Other one.
Cinderella's stepsisters were thrilled and immediately began to go plan their outfits. Cinderella's stepmother forbids Cinderella from attending and says,
Better not come for you're out of this house.
feeling sad and alone, Cinderella went to her room with her mice and cried and cried. Jacques tries to comfort her by saying, but it didn't work. Gus tried by saying,
Don't worry. Some people, most people love you. It's just those people are very evil. You can maybe just sneak out.
but it didn't work. Still, Cinderella cried. Suddenly, a fairy godmother appeared to her. Cinderella and her mice friends were shocked. The fairy godmother said,
Don't worry, Papa gonna fix it right up.
the fairy godmother told Cinderella that she would help her go to the ball, but only if she promised to be home by midnight. Cinderella agreed, and the fairy godmother used her powerful magic to transform Cinderella's ragged, old dress into a beautiful ball gown. And the fairy godmother used her magic powers and her magic dance to make all of this magic happen and appear. And the magic kept happening and happening, and there was a lot of magic. Wow, there is so much magic. And then the ball gown appeared. Wow. The fairy godmother also turned a pumpkin into a carriage and Jacques and Gus into horses to pull the carriage. The fairy godmother said to Cinderella, loudly facing her,
Have an amazing time at the ball, but remember.
and they were off. As the clock struck 8, Cinderella arrived at the ball. Everyone was amazed by her beauty, except for her stepmother and stepsisters, who were incredibly jealous. Everybody danced and laughed and mingled. The king and the duke looked for a match for the prince. The stepmother and stepsisters did their best to impress the prince, but he was only interested in meeting Cinderella. Cinderella danced and talked the night away with the prince. The prince said to Cinderella,
Hi.
he said hi. Suddenly, the clock struck midnight. Cinderella remembered her promise to the fairy godmother and rushed away, leaving behind only one glass slipper. The next day, the prince and the duke searched the entire kingdom, going frantically door to door. When they finally arrived at Cinderella's house, they tried the glass slipper on Anastasia, but it was entirely too small and didn't fit. Then they tried it on Drizella's foot. It was entirely too big and she couldn't walk in it.
I can walk.
No, she can't. Then they tried it on the stepmother's foot.
What?
They wanted to try it on the stepmother's foot, but she was too old.
Yeah, get out of here. Get out of here.
Then they tried it on Cinderella's foot, and it fit perfectly. The prince recognized Cinderella from the ball and said,
Hi.
and they lived happily ever after.
Not ever. Not ever.
Except for the step family. Okay, everyone come up, block one, take a bow. Now block. Hey. My block two, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so once again, this is Broadway Bound's Fractured Fairy Tale production of Cinderella. Are we recording?
Yes.
Yep, just making sure. Broadway Bound's Fractured Fairy Tale production of Cinderella. It is a fractured fairy tale because they just got their parts today. They will be listening to the actions and doing it, and they will be making up all of their own lines on the spot. Are we ready back there, block two? Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a kind and beautiful young girl named Cinderella. Cinderella lived with her cruel stepmother and two beautiful yet mean-spirited stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella. They all treated her very badly and made her do all the chores. Stepmother would say,
Clean my shoes.
Anastasia would say,
Oh God, you're so ugly. Why are you a part of the family?
Drizella would add,
This outfit is not giving.
and they would leave her to clean while they had fun. Even though her life's conditions were deplorable, she still tried to keep herself going. She says to herself,
My life's horrible, but you know, at least I'm alive.
"Yeah." She befriends a number of little birds and mice. Her best mice friend is Jacques. Jacques says, one day, the king of the kingdom announced he will be throwing a grand ball. He says,
Hey, yo, I'm throwing a ball, so be there, yo. Yeah.
he and the Grand Duke go door to door, inviting all of the eligible young ladies in the land to attend.
Leave his hat. Leave his hat.
When they arrive to Cinderella's household, the Grand Duke announces, yeah,
Hi. Bye.
and they go off to more houses. The stepsisters are thrilled and start thinking about their outfit. The stepmother forbids Cinderella to go to the ball and says,
Clean my dishes.
and then leaves. Feeling sad and alone, Cinderella goes to her room with her mouse. With her mouse. And she cries and cries. Jacques tries to comfort her by saying loudly, but it didn't work. Cinderella still cried. Suddenly, a fairy godmother appears. Cinderella and her mice friends are shocked. The fairy godmother says,
You will go to that ball.
the fairy godmother told Cinderella she would help her go to the ball, but only if she promised to be home by midnight. Cinderella agreed, and the fairy godmother used her powerful magic to transform Cinderella's ragged old dress into a beautiful ball gown. She also turned a pumpkin into a golden carriage and turned Jacques into a horse to pull it. The fairy godmother said to Cinderella,
Farewell.
and they were off. As the clock struck 8, Cinderella arrived at the ball. Everyone was amazed by her beauty,
Not really.
except the stepmother and stepsisters, who were incredibly jealous. Everyone danced and laughed and mingled. The king and the duke looked for a match for the princess. The stepmother and stepsisters did their best to impress the prince, but he was only interested in meeting Cinderella. Cinderella and the prince danced and laughed and talked the whole night long. The prince said to Cinderella, but as the clock struck midnight, Cinderella remembered her promise to the fairy godmother and rushed away, leaving behind one of the glass slippers. Bye. The next day, the prince and the duke searched the entire kingdom, going door to door. When they finally arrived at Cinderella's house, they tried the glass slipper on Anastasia's foot, but it was entirely too small and they could not get it on. Then they tried the glass slipper on Gisella's foot, but it did not fit. And they tried the glass slipper on the stepmother's foot, but it did not fit and she was way too old. Then they tried it on Cinderella's foot and it fit perfectly. The prince finally recognized Cinderella from the ball and said,
I remember you.
and they lived happily ever after. The end.